It's October. Spooky times are upon us, and I thought I'd celebrate with a rapid-fire review series. I've rediscovered the wonderful Spooksville books by Christopher Pike, and I'm nearly finished reading all the books, so to celebrate Halloween, I'm going to hit my reviewers with a daily review of each of the Spooksville books in chronological order. That is, if a certain book would appear in my mailbox sometime soon. No pressure. But it wouldn't be me if I planned things out well. So, see you in the future, and stay spooky. Book 1, The Secret Path. Adam, Sally, and Watch meet and go on their first adventure, discovering a doorway into the past and alternate dimensions. Now, I have to say, the main trio are some of my favorite characters of all time, and the witch, Ann Templeton, is a great supporting character. And this goes for all the books, but scary things actually happen.
Watch you spill your beans.
Book 2, The Howling Ghost. The trio befriends Cindy Makey and battle a malevolent ghost haunting a lighthouse. Now, the plot twist near the end of this book is one of the series' best, and Cindy's a welcome addition to the cast. Plus, if you fear drowning like I do, there's an intense underwater scene that, well, it was intense for a kid's story, especially. Book 3, The Haunted Cave. The group becomes trapped in a cave with all kinds of natural and supernatural threats. Now, this book is very weak plot-wise, but it does involve a lot of very cool set pieces that do make it a fun read. Book 4, Aliens in the Sky. What seems to be a standard alien abduction story evolves into something completely different by the end. The twist about who the aliens are is interesting, but it's hampered by a ham-fisted Captain Planet moral at the end. Book 5, The Cold People. Atlantean White Walkers invade Spooksville, and one of the team is transformed into an enemy. The emotional core of the story is great, and the world building is solid, creating a strong foundation for the rest of the series. The only con is that the resolution and the ending do feel rushed. Also, this begins a running theme of 12-year-olds using firearms, so if that kind of thing bothers you, maybe don't do this one. Book 6, The Witch's Revenge. Each member of the team is gifted a powerful necklace from Ann Templeton, each with unexpected consequences. Now, Ann is a great supporting character and an even better antagonist. The title is slightly misleading once you've read it, but that's just a nitpick. Also, a witch loved an alien and made a star baby. I know that, and now you know it too. Book 7, The Dark Corner. The gang re-enters the secret path searching for a lost friend and end up in a much darker version of Spooksville with their very souls at risk. Now, hell and hepatitis are two words I never expected to see in a children's book, but I'm impressed with their inclusion. This is undoubtedly the darkest entry in the series so far, and it introduces a character that becomes important later. Overall, I highly recommend this one. Book 8, Pan's Realm. Magical creatures appear in Spooksville, and the gang follow them back to their dimension. Originally titled The Little People, a title that would definitely work for a modern audience, the new title is more honest, but it's also less interesting unless you're a mythology geek like me. And this is also the book where the gang entered a fantasy world isekai anime. Book 9, The Wishing Stone. What starts out as a typical monkey's paw story evolves into a strange intergalactic adventure involving seedy cantinas, slave labor, and pop culture references. Well, honestly, I would have preferred Pike's take on a monkey's paw story. The result is bizarre and fascinating. It isn't exactly a horror story, more of a sci-fi adventure. This also appears to be the most meta book in the series, if I'm not mistaken. Book 10, The Wicked Cat. Sally befriends a black cat gifted with strange powers and develops an unhealthy obsession with it, driving a rift between her and her friends. This is one of the best antagonists of the series, proving to be both sinister and sympathetic. There are several plot similarities to Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, so if you like that, you'll probably like this. Book 11, The Deadly Past. Dinosaurs have appeared in Spooksville, causing chaos everywhere they go. The gang must venture into the past to discover the source of the disruption. The revelation of what/who caused the problem is underwhelming, however, the ticking time bomb climax makes up for it.
I am king under the mountain.
Book 12, The Hidden Beast. A treasure hunt unintentionally unleashes a vengeful dragon on the town. The human antagonist isn't exactly likable in this one, but they have understandable motives. Whereas the dragon is intimidating, it isn't allowed to cause as much mayhem as is warranted. Also, Bryce is a walking plot convenience in this book, and I love him for it. Book 13, Creature and the Teacher. The gang begins a new year at school and encounters a suspicious character and their new teacher. The story starts off as a standard horror movie setup, but has an interesting twist. Also, the climax of and the resolution of the story are so batshit insane it must be read to be believed. Book 14, The Evil House. It's Halloween night and the gang enter a notoriously haunted house where they may never return from. I originally read this book in grade school and vividly remembered most of it. A nostalgic and enjoyable story filled with fun and danger. Also, the ending with the antagonist is sad, but also heartwarming. Book 15, Invasion of the No-Ones. Strange creatures made of light appear in Spooksville and plan to assimilate the human population. While it is similar to Book 5 in its plot, the emotional core of the story and the antagonist are far superior. Also, the ending is much better. Book 16, Time Terror. The gang discovers a device that can travel through time and inadvertently cause massive changes to the timeline. Not really a horror story, but a solid sci-fi story. The logic of the time travel works surprisingly well, but still requires a healthy suspension of disbelief. And the ending is surprisingly dark, but fitting. Book 17, The Thing in the Closet. One of the group is kidnapped by an evil creature from another dimension, and the gang follows it to save them. Once again, Pike proves to be a master of subversion. When the rescue mission begins, it appears to be straightforward, however, it evolves into a story about dreams, fears, and politics. Also, Tyra from Book 15 makes a welcome return and plays a vital role in the story. Book 18, Attack of the Killer Crabs. A peaceful day at the beach is ruined by kaiju-sized crustaceans out to wreak havoc. A deep-sea adventure also serves as a deep dive into world building. I won't spoil the reveal about the crab's true nature and purpose, but there's a lot of action and destruction in this book, with a healthy dose of eco-terrorism, so that's fun. Book 19, Night of the Vampire. When the gang finds an injured classmate, they take him to the hospital. This leads to them discovering a conspiracy involving vampires infiltrating Spooksville. Pike continues his trend of world building and property damage with this story. The origin of the vampires is very interesting and how it ties to the established history of their world. Like books 5 and 15, the story involves one of the gang being controlled by the enemy, and like those books, it creates a good emotional core for the story. Book 20, The Dangerous Quest. Watch falls deathly ill and the team must enter the secret path to find the cure. All of this ties to a mysterious book Watch was reading. This book's plot and antagonist are very engaging and offers a difficult moral dilemma for anybody to face, much less a group of 12-year-olds. Like the other Secret Path stories, it proves to be one of the strongest entries. The ending may be the best of the series, offering a satisfaction conclusion to the story, as well as paying off something set up in Book 16. Book 21, Return of the Dead. An army of skeletons rises from their graves in search of the gang. This book utilizes continuity better than any of the books that came before it, referencing books 16 and 20 specifically. It also adds a heartbreaking layer to Anne's backstory that shows us all that she has lost in her life. Like Book 7, this story does deal with questions about death and what lies beyond it. The ending to this book may not dethrone Book 20's, but it's still one of the best in the series. Also, the amount of dark humor in this story is astounding and much appreciated. Book 22, The Creepy Creature. A forest hike becomes a race for survival when a shape-shifting blob monster emerges from a cave and attacks. Desperately trying to avoid spoilers with this one, what starts out as a similar story to The Thing/Invasion of the Body Snatchers turns into a bizarre story fleshing out the history of Spooksville and showcasing an alien civil war. Like the two books that came before it, this book deals with death and loss in a surprisingly mature way. I highly recommend this one. Book 23, Phone Fear. The gang received threatening calls from an unknown entity. It gives them orders, and if they disobey, terrible things happen. This is one of the most intense books in the series, with the antagonist playing a twisted game of Simon Says, making the gang assemble supplies for his end goal. The story at first feels like A Stranger Calls, but it ends up feeling like Eagle Eye/Terminator. This book also showcases the most tension between the members of the gang, including a scene where they hold each other at gunpoint. My one-sentence summary of the plot is, I always knew dial-up was evil. Book 24, The Witch's Gift. Anne Templeton leaves Spooksville behind and grants each of the gang one perfect wish. A good but bittersweet ending to the fantastic series. My main issues with this book are that other than Anne leaving forever, nothing about it really strikes me as a finale to the gang story. It does illustrate the complex but caring relationship that Anne and the group had, and it does develop the interpersonal relationships of the group. But for a series that rewarded the reader for knowing the continuity, there isn't much of a connection between this book and the others. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't have to be Avengers Endgame, but I feel like this series deserved a grander finale. All in all, a great book, but an iffy finale. Is the Spooksville TV series good? Yes, with a few caveats. First, a little backstory. I read a few of the books in grade school and watched this show on its original run on the Hub Network.
Remember that?
I enjoyed the series then, and I enjoyed it more rewatching it for this review. I appreciate the series more after reading the books, despite the massive differences between it and its source material. Like any adaptation, this series does differ from the books, however the question becomes, do the changes negatively affect the show? I don't think they do, and this is coming from someone who loves the books. This is definitely not a Last Airbender or Artemis Fowl level disaster of an adaptation. Now, I do have some critiques, but I promise to keep them brief. Some of my favorite characters from the books are either completely absent or completely different. Best anime rival ever, Bryce Poole never shows up in the series, and the cute and courageous Cindy only appears in the total of one episode and contributes nothing to the plot. These two characters are just as important as the main trio in the books. and Anne, the beautiful, deadly, and wise antagonist/mentor of the group, in this series is a teenager with ulterior motives that befriends the trio and acts as a love interest for the main character. Also, just as a side note, the show is very low budget, and it shows in several episodes, but put a pin in this because I'll come back to it in the positives. Okay, the ugliness is over. Time for the positives. The casting and acting are great on all fronts, particularly from the main trio of Adam, Sally, and Watch. Kean Johnson, Katie Douglas, and Nick Percha embody these characters to a T, and they are the reason I instantly fell in love with the show. Aside from great casting, and the writing staff are no slouches either, adapting several of the stories in a semi-faithful way and coming up with side stories that are completely their own. Back to my earlier point about the show's budget, while it is definitely on the lower side of the spectrum, especially the CGI, the practical effects, makeup, and occasional stunt work are impressive. And I do need to mention that this series ends on a cliffhanger that will probably never be resolved, so that might frustrate a new audience. But being totally fair, I wasn't a huge fan of how the books ended either. So I guess that was something that wasn't lost in an adaptation. This series continues to have a fan base to this day, and I completely understand why. I've seen a few petitions to renew the series for a second season, but it's been 6 years, and with the Hub Network being defunct, I don't see that happening anytime soon. So for the time being, I just say read the books, watch the series, and enjoy as much of Christopher Pike's work as you can. If they ever do another TV adaptation of the series, I have a few ideas that would appease both the book lovers and the first series' fans. Spooksville fits into a genre shared by Gravity Falls, Stranger Things, and Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, so I'd borrow a few ideas from how those shows were done. The Spooksville series is targeted at a preteen audience with its fun demeanor and dark themes. It could have similar tone and style to Gravity Falls and Mystery Incorporated. I would like to take it one step further and also implementing an overarching story like those two series, which the first series did do pretty well. The aspect I would emulate from Stranger Things would be the time period the story takes place in. The 1980s aesthetic works wonders for Stranger Things' popularity, and setting the new Spooksville series in the late 90s, just like the books, would be a massive nostalgia trip for people my age, and could introduce the younger generations to an era they never got to experience. And I do think the first series illustrates that a new series should be an animated one, to work around budgetary issues. This would allow any returning cast members from the original show to come back and voice the characters again, since they are now too mature to play them physically. My final and most important idea for the stories is to stick very close to the 24 books in the series and only add things to enhance the story, not stripping away any memorable characters from the books. The books are split up nicely into two parts, the first 12 being during summer vacation and the remaining 12 being set during the school year. We'll call them seasons 1 and 2. One aspect I really admire about the first TV series is how they made Madeline Templeton as the overarching main antagonist, which I think could easily be worked into a more direct adaptation of the books. I would do this in a similar way to Bill Cipher from Gravity Falls or the evil entity from Mystery Incorporated. And the final thing I would do is give the series a grander finale than Book 24 did. I wouldn't go too crazy with it, but make it feel like a finale that rewards the audience for sticking with the series all that time. Hello again, friends. It's your pal ZBH, in hand form this time. And welcome back to the Spooksville series. I know it's been 5 years. Can you believe it's been 5 years since I uploaded this series? It's crazy, right? Well, whenever I was doing the original run of this video, I had an idea for something I wanted to shoot, but I didn't have the time because I was doing the whole daily upload thing. So I decided to just do a short little add-on to this since I'm doing the compilation. I always try to give you guys a little something, if you're going to stick around to actually watch those. But I wanted to talk about the book art of the Spooksville books and how the modern differs from the old, if I prefer, like which one I prefer. And I got some other stuff too, but I wanted to start here with that. So these are the first 12 books. You got Secret Path, Howling Ghost, Haunted Cave, Aliens in the Sky, Cold People, Witch's Revenge, Dark Corner, Pan's Realm, Wishing Stone, Wicked Cat, Deadly Past, and Hidden Beast. So that's numbers 1 through 12 right here. These are the reprints that they did past few years. I don't know exactly how long ago it was, but I'll throw that in the edit process. But these here are the 90s covers. There's also some British covers in here too. Not all of them are the English ones, but I mean the American ones. But these are the 90s covers, and you can see very different. You know, a lot more colorful, a lot more in your face, but in a good way, I think. And I like how both of these reflect, like this. These reflect the modern era. These reflect the 90s era, where it's all about getting your attention, getting kids interested in reading the books. You gotta make something interesting looking. But these, I wanted to say this part is, I wish that these were reprinted. These second 12 of the series. Because it was very, very hard to get a hold of all of these for the retrospective series that I did. And also very expensive. Hopefully they're not as expensive as they were 5 years ago, but that was pretty hard to get those in a timely manner and at a decent price. But it is what it is. I did want to mention the ones that have been reprinted, the first 12, actually do have an audiobook on Audible that I did get all of those as the audio, which is pretty cool. I think that we should try to get the rest of the series, like to finish the Spooksville series in audio form, reprint all these books so they're not, so hard to find. I'm glad that I have these. These are very much time capsules of the 90s, and I appreciate the artwork a lot. But I just want more people to experience this series, and a reprint or bare minimum an audio version would help that along quite a bit. But if you guys wanted to just tell me, like, what do you guys think about the book covers of these books? If they want to, like, which version do you prefer? If you've seen the 90s version or you've seen the reprints of these 12, what do you have a preference on that? What steps do we need to take to try to get a reprint of the series to finish? Because I love this. These are very good reprints, very good versions of the books. I want them to do that with the rest of the series for simplicity's sake, and I want new kids, kids like me when I was reading it in the 90s to discover these books, and reprinting and Audible and all these other modern things. We can help them discover good kids literature that they might develop a fondness for. Won't be the same as our fondness because we lived through the 90s, but something similar, just so they have a bit of appreciation for that time period that they didn't get to experience. Yeah, this is kind of just impromptu, but I wanted to talk about this with you guys, so let me know your thoughts, and just wanted to say thanks for supporting this series and this series of videos, and it's one of the most viewed things on my channel is the is the Spooksville TV show, and thankfully, because of that, they've found the book videos too. But thanks again, everybody. I can't believe it's been 5 years since the original, but just wanted to say, still here, still kicking, still enjoy these books. Let me know what your thoughts on the books and the TV show are in the comments, and I'll see you next time.